Jocko, heard General Mattis say that he looks for initiative and aggressiveness in NCOs. I'm not a naturally aggressive leader. Do you believe leaders should be aggressive by nature? When to be aggressive, or when do you be aggressive? Does it come off as fake if it's not natural?
So, obviously this is something we talk about all the time, is that being default aggressive is good for leaders. Yes, that is a true statement. There's a dichotomy, obviously, because you can be too aggressive and then things go wrong and things go bad and things don't work. And yes, there are some people that are, let's say, more aggressive by nature. And then let's also remember that being aggressive means a lot more than just being loud, brash, and in your face, right? That is the stereotypical thing that we think of when we think of, oh, that guy's really aggressive. You think this guy's in your face, he's yelling, he's, pushing people over. That is not the type of aggressiveness that you need to be an effective leader. You don't need to be a loudmouth. You don't need to be brash. You don't need to get in people's faces. What being aggressive means is taking action. That's the kind of aggressiveness that I'm talking about. That's the kind of aggressiveness that General Mattis is talking about. And, the definition, I actually wrote this down, the definition of aggressive, or one of the definitions of being aggressive, is forceful and sometimes overly assertive pursuit of one's aims. So, first of all, forceful we get, right? Sometimes overly assertive means sometimes that you have to go a little bit harder. And here's why that's important, because listen, in combat, almost nothing will happen the way you want it to if you don't force it that way. Right? You are coming against a powerful force, the enemy, nature, time. There's all kinds of things that are going against you. It's a losing battle. And if you don't use force of will, then you're not going to get it done. You have to be aggressive and make things happen. I remember, so we all got interviewed after we came home from Ramadi, and I remember I was listening to Seth Stone get interviewed. And it was just, they were just trying to, capture whatever information, moments, historical accounts of what had happened in Ramadi. And Seth said something along the lines of, every operation we did, you could feel Jocko beating his head against the wall to make things happen. And of course I laughed. But from his perspective, and it's a good perspective and it's an accurate perspective, nothing just kind of, that fell into my lap. That just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in combat. It just doesn't happen in combat. And so, yes, this idea that you're going to be aggressive is very important. But if you think to yourself, well, okay, look, I'm not the type of person that likes to be a loudmouth, likes to shout, likes to yell. Cool, good. It doesn't matter. You don't need to be that way. What it means is you need to make things happen. That's what it means. And it can be, this is the good thing about being aggressive. Sure, there's certain parts of your nature that are aggressive, but it can also be trained. You can start to think with an aggressive mindset, which is, I am going to take action. I'm going to overcome obstacles. I'm going to push through roadblocks. I'm not going to take no for an answer. And those are things that you can train. And how do you train them? Look, when you hit an obstacle, you look at it, you shake your head and you go, cool, let's go. Let's figure this out. There's so often times where people, they get told no, or they hit an obstacle and it's game over for them. They're just done. They're done training. They're over it. Mm-hmm. And your attitude, you have to go, okay, little roadblock. Cool. How am I going to get through it? How am I going to get around it? And I used to put people, so to train people to be more aggressive, regardless of what they're, and believe me, I had guys, SEAL officers that were coming through that, or SEAL chiefs that were coming through, real passive guys, quiet guys, not the type of person that you would figure, that guy's aggressive. You wouldn't characterize them as that. Mm-hmm. But what I would do is put them in situations where if they didn't make aggressive decisions to make things happen, they were going to get annihilated. Put them in training scenarios like that. Okay. Oh, you want to sit here and you want to wait? Like you're getting attacked and you want to sit here and you don't want to make a decision. Cool. In 16 minutes, I will have everyone in your task unit dead. We will kill them all with paintball. If you and so they learn that, and I go, well, what do you think happened? And they'd say, well, we started to get surrounded, and I go, and what did you do? Well, we held position. Okay, how long did you hold position for? Oh, we held it for a while. And what did the enemy do? Well, they started to maneuver. And then what'd you do? Well, we held position. And then what'd the enemy do? Well, they maneuvered more. And then what'd you do? I held position. And then we started taking casualties. And then the enemy maneuvered, and then they closed the distance, and then they took us out. Okay, what do you think would have been better? Well, perhaps when it first started, before they had us enveloped, I could have made a maneuver to get to another building with some more high ground. That sounds like a great idea. Next time, why don't you be a little bit more aggressive in making things happen? Okay, put them in the same scenario. They get a little bit more aggressive. They realize that it serves its function. And they start to develop the attitude, and they start to understand what a lack of aggression will get you, because that's an important thing to know, right? It's not just the carrot, it's the stick. Cool, if I do this aggressive thing, it'll be rewarding. If I don't do something aggressive, we're going to get annihilated. So here's the other thing that you got to be ready for. So if you're a person that you lean towards being passive, you've got to start to lean towards being aggressive. And here's the thing that you got to remember: you're gonna make mistakes, because when you're aggressive, you're taking more risk, and often you're taking more risk. Now, if you've played out the whole matrix of being passive versus being aggressive, I will tell you that being aggressive is the one that ends up on top. But there are scenarios where your aggressiveness ends up costing you a little bit. That absolutely happens. It happens in business, it happens in life, it happens on the battlefield. But overall, being aggressive is this is where the idea of aggressive has to be your default mode. This is exactly why aggression has to be your default mode. Your default mode is aggressive. If your default mode is aggressive and it's not the right answer, you just use the other answer, right? Your default mode is aggressive. That's why I originally said to these young SEAL officers, your default mode has to be aggressive. So if you're not sure if you should stay or you should go to the default, which is going to be aggressive, because 9 times out of 10, 7 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, that's going to be a better move than sitting on your ass and doing nothing. That's what's going to get you killed. So your default mode is to go. Now, do you always go with your default mode? No, you don't always go with it. It's the default mode. But occasionally you go, oh, you know what? I'm not going to go to the default mode. You pull the setting out and you go into the other mode.
Customize it a little
bit. Yeah, you
bit.
Customize a little bit for that particular situation. But your default mode is, I'm going to be aggressive. And that's the odds. You want the odds. You want to stack the odds in your favor.
What is Jason Gardner puts it kind of a cool, like, good way to just really wrap your head around, like, being in a default mode. Something along the lines of, like, it's easier or it's better to, like, have to pull someone back than have to push them forward.
It's a million times easier to have to pull the reins in on someone, on an element, on a team, on a leader, on a person. It's a million times easier to go, all right, hey, come on back. Right. You're going too hard. Then going, hey, you need to get out there. Yeah. Because, by the way, I mean, if you think about this from an actual event unfolding, if an event unfolds and you're the person that's on point and you don't react to it properly, that event needs to make it through you to me before I can now assess what I think you should do and then tell you to go do it and then kick you in the ass so you go do it. I don't want that. We already lost. I want you to go, hey, we just got this event started unfolding, I'm on it. And you look back at me, hey, Jocko, I'm solving this problem right now. Oh, what's the problem, right? I don't even know what the problem is yet. You're already solving it. Yeah. That's what I want. And if I happen to occasionally have to pull the reins on you, I'm more than happy to pull the reins on you. Yeah. So yes, that's universal. It's easier to lead someone that you have to pull the reins on than you have to push. We'd rather pull back than push forward. And that idea of being aggressive is part of that. So I want all my subordinate leaders to be aggressive. And as a leader, I know that my subordinates are going to make mistakes while they're learning to be aggressive. And even when they're being aggressive and they're considered fully trained and fully ready, they're still going to make mistakes. I'm still going to make mistakes being aggressive. I'm going to make mistakes, but we're going to play the odds. Yeah. And the odds are the odds are you be aggressive. I'm trying to think of a good blackjack. You know, you ever play blackjack before?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, I mean, like there's, you know, dealers showing a whatever. Dealers showing 20 and you're showing a 14. You got to hit it. Like that's the odds.
Yeah.
The odds are you got to hit it.
Mm-hmm.
Dealer's showing a 14 and you're showing a 14. You got to let the dealer take the hit.
Do they call it? I forget do they call it showing 20? Because, you know, one is down, one is up, right? Do they call that showing 20? Let's say you have a 10 or
because you don't know what the other card is.
Right, you just assume
assume that it's a 10.
So he's showing 20. Okay. Yeah.
Man, I haven't played blackjack in a while. I can't believe I'm like struggling with my thought process around blackjack around the numbers.
No, that's how, bro.
Yeah.
It was more of a terminology situation.
Yeah. But you play the odds.
Yeah.
And there's rules when you're playing the odds in blackjack. There's rules of what you hit and what you don't. And you stick with the rules, the odds are going to be on your side.
Yeah. Yeah.
More than if you don't, if you just sit back. And so we're playing the odds. We're playing the odds with leadership.
Yeah.
And the odds are your default mode. It's not that you never come out of default mode. The odds are you be aggressive. So back to this question here. Let's another couple things in this question. When to be aggressive? Look, the default mode is be aggressive. And sometimes you look at it and you go, now's not the time. Mm-hmm. Does it come off as fake or not natural? Hey, it's not. Being aggressive from this perspective isn't how you're acting. Yeah. It's the decisions that you're making. It's the decision. I was working with a client yesterday and we were talking about data. I think it was a client call or it was another. Yeah, it was about data. And it was actually the very similar question. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm not very aggressive and I'm more of a data guy and I like numbers and that's how I roll. And yet I'm not getting recognized. And I was like, cool. Get aggressive with your data. Put your data together and present it up the chain of command. Not to say, hey, look at me, but to say, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. You're being aggressive with your data. You're showing them what's happening because the guy wasn't getting the recognition that he needed. Right. And so that meant his senior leadership didn't know what he was doing, which meant he's not getting the resources that he needs to do his job. And instead of being like, hey, this is what I need, because he's not an aggressive guy, he's sitting back and just getting resources stripped away from him. I said, cool, you're a data guy. Record the data of what you're doing, present it, and let the data speak. Get default aggressive with your data. Did I miss anything here? Yeah, so it's not natural. Yeah, I mean, if you all of a sudden start to try and act, you know, this new way.
Yeah, Brad, don't do that.
Yeah, it's probably not going to go good. Now, do you sometimes have to learn like, okay, you know what? I got to stand up and say something. I got to put word out, right? Yeah. You know, and I watched many guys in my career go through the transition of being a little bit less aggressive and they realize, you know what? I'm in charge of this thing. I got to go put the word out. Yeah. And that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, those kind of, for lack of a better term, superficial personality traits that are aggressive. Some people say, oh, well, that's aggressive, yes. You know, where there's more depth to it. We're like, because again, like, you know, you can think of like a I don't know, some fictional or maybe even not fictional, like maybe Japanese business tycoon who doesn't say nothing really, you know, but you know he's making aggressive moves. Like that's an aggressive guy, kind of, you know, it goes deep. And then, you know, a guy who, how you were saying, like he yells and screams and has a loud voice or whatever. Yeah. It's kind of like, okay, if that's your personality, that's going to land for sure. But it's more about the decisions you make.
When you say it's going to land, what do you mean? Because that might just make a bunch of people angry.
Right. Sometimes, well, it depends on what you're yelling and screaming for sure.
But what you're saying is there could be someone that's loud and scream, but they're using that to cover the fact that they're actually not making any moves.
Potentially, yes.
So the yelling and screaming has very little to do with aggressive movement on the battlefield.
Yes,
is what you're saying.
Oh, I'm saying there's more depth to it. But the point actually is that
you should have just taken that point, because that was a good point. You should have taken that one and run with it. But I'll let you continue.
This one is probably less gloriful, but nonetheless, if because he's concerned about faking it or coming off as fake, where if you're focused on those, like a superficial elements of your personality being aggressive, that's the part they're going to smell as fake. If you're trying to change that part of it, you know, like, oh, we used to have this in 7th grade. He was, I don't know, I think it's like a music teacher. I don't know, something.
Super aggressive music teacher.
He was like a nice dude, like really nice. And
there's not too many stereotypical hyper aggressive music teachers.
No, man, he wasn't.
I had an assistant platoon commander, and aggressive, great guy. And he, you know, I didn't, you know, as I got to know him, you know, and I was like, so what'd you study in college? And he's like, percussion.
Yeah, man. Dig it.
I'm what are you talking about? I was like, what, concussion? What? He's like, percussion, drumming.
Yeah.
He started drumming in college.
Dang.
Which is just kind
going
of
deep in percussion.
Yeah, I didn't know you could major in percussion. I mean, I guess, but anyways.
The history of percussion.
Yeah.
Properties of percussion.
My point is, had he become a music teacher, he probably
aggressive.
would have been because he was an aggressive assistant platoon commander.
Yeah,
had to pull the reins on him sometimes. He'd be out there getting after it.
This guy was not aggressive at all. He was like a nice guy trying to please everyone, you know, short term and long term kind of thing, which didn't really work with. I'm pretty sure it was 7th grade. So he was like, I remember guys would just run circles around him, you know, like people wouldn't listen and all this stuff. He had trouble controlling the class, we'll say that. And then at one time he tried to switch his personality.
Yeah.
One time he dropped a book. You know how like sometimes when you drop a
Super
big book, yeah, sometimes when it hits correctly, it's like boom, it's like a fire. So one time, bro, he tried to do that and it didn't make the sound, and like everyone was like, "What the fuck is this guy doing?" He's like looking at everybody with his eyes all big. Nonetheless, I think he got aggressive one day, and people like shut up and were like, "Hey, this guy's like." You know how when someone's never aggressive and then they start yelling, you're like, everyone kind of bees quiet, like, dang, this guy's yelling. So I think he might have got a small little payoff one day. And then from then on, he started to try to be like aggressive, but everyone could smell it on him. Like, bro, that's not even your thing. So it worked against him. Yeah, everyone was kind of laughing at him. Now he's like a weirdo.
Yep. So no need to do that.
No need.
Don't be throwing the music book on the table.
No. The big textbook. It was on the floor too. But yeah, it didn't work, unfortunately.